Customer experience today is driven by the way businesses are able to reach out to their customers on multiple digital touch points. When you talk about a country like India, we're talking about a place where there are close to about 6 to 7 channels that businesses reach out to their customers on. Businesses typically use anywhere between 10 to 15 vendors, and these businesses are most of the times larger banks, BFSI institutes, very heavily regulated. So when I talk about customer experience being sort of driven by customer communications, the enterprise stack today that manages these digital touchpoints unfortunately is extremely scattered. There is no unification. There is limited to no orchestration, leading to magnanimous spillages in terms of costs, in terms of customer experience, and the worst part is they're not even able to measure it. For instance, yesterday I was having this conversation, or I was a part of this panel where people were talking about, or MD CEOs of banks were talking about their investments into mobile banking apps. Now that's a fantastic digital asset that banks have built. There are 2 channels that surface because of these investments, which is your app notifications and notification centers inside your applications, and these 2 channels are completely unused, so to say. But on the other side, if you look at the way SMSs have been ramping up thanks to UPI volumes, every message correlates into 2 SMS which is being plastered to both the receiver and the sender, and we're talking about 10,000 odd crores which is overall being spent by BFSI only on these alerts. Now the blind spot here is that where thousands of crores are getting invested into your own channels, which is your mobile banking and web applications, and another 10,000 crores every year is going into alerts through SMS. You can just sort of marry both of these together, where you can divert or reroute a lot of those alerts into mobile banking applications, thereby saving messaging cost, while at the same time you're bringing the customer back onto the mobile banking apps again and again, which is something that would act as a digital ramp to sort of get on where customers can now get on their digital highways. So that's the $1 billion blind spot. You systematically save cost, and at the same time you increase your mobile engagement by doing it's like one shot at 2 different problems. This is a pretty tough one when I go deeper into the subject. While on a surface level, people will just say that okay, take consent from customers and then adhere to that consent that you've chosen. But when you look at the tech stack again, take an example of a bank. Bank has close to about 100 applications which trigger messages to customers. It is practically impossible that banks hold the consent for each of those 100 applications at those 100 applications. So you need to so the way I look at DPDP is, it is inevitable for you to unify your customer communication setup, and only when that unification is achieved is when your consent checks can be truly real time and accurate. Now, so therefore, for the best DPDP implementation, whatever I just mentioned in terms of unification would become sort of a table stake or a inevitable consequence. So Fyno was consciously built as a standalone technology layer. We've seen in the past that a lot of CPaaS companies which provide messaging service, try to build a basic middleware which could address maybe 20% of what banking or BFSI requirements were. But because of the complexity of regulations, because of innovation not being more bank or BFSI centric, these middlewares always lacked on multiple fronts. And structurally, CPaaS business models never allowed CPaaS to innovate on technology side, because their primary moat was to make more business by selling more messaging volumes. So Fyno realized this early on when we started our business. We wanted to become an independent technology layer where we could put in all our resources and investments into building only technology without being biased, without having any motivation on volumes, and be more a consulting solutioning partner to the BFSI and truly cater to BFSI's technology needs, rather than worrying about okay, this channel is newly come up, this vendor is sort of newly come up, why don't we sort of bridge the pricing gap and so on and so forth. So most of our innovation has only been on the banking side. What it has also led us to in terms of realization in our few projects that we have recently finished is that the mode of independence. whenever you work with communication vendors, the mode of independence always plays in your favor. The moment I am biased with a vendor or a partner, I will never be able to bring those efficiencies in the systems which I would otherwise now bring very clearly because of that independence. And from a risk perspective, compliance perspective, audit perspective, Fyno is probably the only standalone independent vendor when it comes to messaging hub in India.